Hello everyone and welcome to the DeHart house. My name is Alicia and I'm your host of this crafty channel here on YouTube. Today is June 1st of 2024, so it's time to make my May Makes video, where I talk about all the things I either made or made progress on in the month of May. As you can see, I'm a big proponent of yarny, fibery crafts, so I'm coming to you from my craft room. I live in the greater Seattle area of Washington State in the United States, and today is a glorious Pacific Northwest weather kind of day. So it's cloudy, it's a little drizzly, a nice cool spring day. So it's a good day to be inside recording an episode. Later today, I'm going to be going to a baseball game to watch the Mariners play with some work colleagues, and so I'm going to try to squeeze this in this morning, do as much editing as I can before I take off for the game. In the month of May, I did make quite a bit of a crafty progress, but I only have 2 finished objects to show for it. I do have some works in progress, and that list is growing. Mainly because the first thing off my needles is right here in my lap, and it's a little hard to hold up and show to you because it is so incredibly drapey. But this is the Breckenridge topper cardigan, and last time I had just barely started it. Last time I saw you was in the April Makes video. It's been a whole month. It's been incredibly busy around here. So yeah, I finished this project. So yeah, let me stand up and give you a try on, because again, it's just so incredibly drapey. It's hard to see what I've made. So it's pretty sheer, as you can see. You can see right through the fabric, which is part of the yarn choice that I made, but also the pattern is written to be at this very loose gauge. This does reach past my elbow, which is a bit wider than I intended. I was going for the elbow, but I think it's okay. It's incredibly light and insanely drapey. The arm opening is quite large. The pattern, which is free by the way, tells you to only stitch this up like 7 inches or so, and that's about what I did. So it's just meant to be very loose like that. The pattern is written where you knit this as a rectangle, this as a rectangle, and then you stitch it up the back middle. But someone wrote pattern notes, and what they did is knit the 2 front panels and then knit the back as a solid piece, and that's what I did. So they made notes for this extra like garter detail here. I hope you can see that, and I copied it from someone's project notes, so I super appreciate when people leave project notes. But yeah, I think it's really nice. It's going to be a great layering piece that's not going to be super warm. So the Breckenridge topper was on my spring making list. So this year I'm trying something new, and what I'm doing is every season I'm curating a list of things to make that are seasonally appropriate. Appropriate being very loose term and defined as how whatever I deem appropriate. So for spring, I was trying to make things that didn't really use like wool, but more of cotton or things like that you would tend to wear in warmer weather rather than trying to stay warm. So that's what I did here. And it's been really great because honestly, one of the classrooms that I teach in is very warm. I don't know why, but I teach in there in the afternoon. I think I'm the last class of the day in there. And so there's all kinds of body heat built up in that room or something. It needs better circulation. But the first classroom I teach in is great. Like I walk in, I've got my t-shirt, my cardigan on, and I'm super comfortable. The second classroom I teach in, I pretty much want to strip off all my clothes because it's insanely hot. So the thought of having a layering piece that's not gonna hold my body heat in sounds really appealing right now. But yeah, it's finished. It's off the needles. I've come to terms with the color. I mentioned this last time, but I ordered this yarn online, and online in the picture, this looked more indigo in color, and it's actually more purple in person. And I've noticed when I take pictures with my camera, depending on the lighting, it either looks more purple or more indigo. So it's just one of those colors that's hard to capture on camera. So I don't know. I've come to terms with it. I'm okay with it. I wanted something darker, but this will work. The yarn is extremely soft. This is Lion brand True Boo, which is, I don't have a tag with me, but it's like 100% rayon from bamboo, something like, or polyester or rayon. I think it's rayon. It's so soft. It is so soft. It was very easy to work with, although you use very large needles compared to the yarn in order to get this very loose gauge. So I use size 10.5 needles. The pattern calls for 11s, but I felt like the 11s were just, it was difficult to work with that large of needles with this size yarn. And also it's so slippy, this yarn. So I went down to 10.5s, and I really like this gauge better. So I did that. And they're just rectangles. It's not like there's shaping and increases and decreases. You're just knitting rectangles. So it wasn't that hard to just modify. The project page that I kind of took notes from, they did a smaller needle size for the ribbing. So I did the same. I went down to a 9 for the ribbing. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I like it. And this used up 935 yards from my stash. And this is all yarn that I purchased for this project. I did purchase 6 skeins, and 6 skeins was way too much. Way too much. I only used about 3.8 skeins. So I have 2 full skeins and a little bit more left over. Not sure what I'm going to do with that. We'll see. If I can, like, return it to the store, and maybe get some of my money back, I would love to do that, but I'm not sure that I'm still within that return window of time. So we'll see. But yeah, so that is my first finished object, and it is the last item on my spring making list. So my spring making list had 3 items on it. I had a t-shirt, a mandala like art piece that I have hanging on the wall now, and a drapey cardigan. And now all 3 things have been made, which is why I've basically been casting on without abandon, because now I have no list to work off of because it's not summer yet. So yeah, I've cast on a bunch of things. But I do have another finished object that I want to share with you. So my other finished object is not really an object, but I did finish a spinning project. So I have 5 balls of this yarn, and this fiber is all from wool that I purchased and cleaned and combed and carded and dyed and did all of that with. So this is a 2-ply yarn, and you can see it's not like, I've got a poofer right there, but it's not perfect. It is a bit thick and thin, but I like it because it looks hand spun. And sometimes when I spin, I want it to look commercial, and sometimes when I spin, I don't mind if it looks hand spun. And this is one of those cases where I was like, I'm not going to fight the wool. It will spin the way that it spins, and if it goes thick and thin, then so be it. So I've got 2 plies, but the 2 plies are different wools, actually. The colored ply is Shetland wool that I dyed. So I just, I had washed it, I had combed it, it sat in a box for at least a couple years, and I'm trying to work down my stash and use things up and enjoy them. So I was like, you know what, I just want to play around with dyeing some fiber and then seeing what happens with it. So that's what I did. One of the batches I dyed with this, with blues and greens. And so I've got blues and greens throughout, and it's fantastic. Another batch I dyed with purple, and I have not, got it right here. Oops. I haven't spun it up yet, so it's just been sitting here in the craft room in this basket. But the blue-green one I decided I would spin up, and I plied it with this undyed. So I just kept it in its natural, basically white color, but the natural. And this is Carrie Hill. So this is half Shetland, half Carrie Hill. And so I did a 2-ply. I spun each ply in the S direction, and then I plied in the Z direction. And I was trying to not spin fingering. So I've been spinning a lot of fingering, which has been bordering on lace weight these days, and I wanted to do something a little thicker, more of a sport DK, or even if I could get to a worsted. So I'd say this is somewhere between DK and sport weight. And so I got 365 yards out of this, and it's beautiful. I love it. So that's finished. So I've added 365 yards to my stash. I also used up 935 yards out of my stash in the cardigan. So I do have a goal. I have many goals. I'm a goal setter. Whether I reach those goals is another story, but that's part of why we're here. So, but I have a goal this year of one of them is more out than in with my stash. So I would like to use up more than what I bring in. So part of that goal is obviously reducing my stash, but also without saying like you're not allowed to buy anything. I can still bring things in. I just need to be mindful of what I bring in, intend to use it up right away sort of thing. I'm not in a collecting phase anymore. I'm wanting to move out of the buy everything that's on sale and just collect it, because you'll find a use for it at some point. And I want to move out of that mindset and into more of like intentional purchases. So that's what this goal is meant to help with. So I tallied up the numbers because I thought it'd be nice to do a little update since we're getting close to the middle of the year. So far, what I've brought into my stash in 2024 is 3,203 yards. So that's from 2 purchases and this hand spun. So I am going to count the hand spun as coming into the yarn stash, but technically, you know, this fiber was already in the fiber stash and it's just transitioned to the yarn stash now. But I don't know, the fiber stash is kind of hard to tally up at the moment, so I'm going with this. So just over 3,000 yards have come into my yarn stash, and what has come out, I've had several finished projects this year, and I've used up of the 2 purchased yarns, I've used up most of those, which is great. So coming out of the stash, which includes my most recent cardigan finished object, is 4,517 yards. So far I am on track with my goal. I have used more than I have brought in. In fact, the difference is 1,314 yards. Which, if I can return those 2 skeins of True Boot that I didn't use, then this difference would be greater, because I brought in 2 extra skeins that I didn't end up using. Anyway, just a thought. So the hand spun yarn that I just finished, I actually have cast on in a project, which is great. Usually when I finish a hand spin, a spinning project, I generally want to cast it on right away, because I've got all the momentum of making this much progress so far, and kind of seeing it on to the next stage is fun. So I did cast on. I cast on a shawl and I didn't like it, so I ripped it back and I started over. And so now what I'm doing is a brioche. I'm thinking of making this into a cowl, but if not a cowl, then maybe just a big scarf. So I'm using my hand spun and I'm pairing it with some DeHart Super Saver, which is 100% acrylic and a worsted weight yarn. The color here is soft navy. And so what's nice is you can, well, I can see in person probably better than you can see on the camera, but my hand spun is definitely not worsted weight because the sizes of the stitches here don't match, but I don't care. I really like these colors together, and honestly, it makes me think of all the Seattle sports teams. So the Seahawks, the Mariners, the Kraken, like they all have this blue-green color scheme. So I'm calling this my Seattle Spirit scarf or cowl, whatever it turns out to be, uh, because I'm pretty much using their colors. So the plan is to knit this as like a big long rectangle, and then sew the two ends together, and then just make like a cowl I can wrap around a bunch of times. And if I don't feel like sewing the two ends together for whatever reason, then I will leave it as just this big scarf. So I like the brioche because it is a nice reversible fabric, and on a cowl or a scarf I don't want to have to deal with right side, wrong side, and hiding floats or things like that. So yeah, and it just gives some intrigue, playing with the colors. So I did 10 rows of the single color, just the blue, and I just did 10 rows of the two colors together, and then I don't know, I'm gonna just play around with things. So yeah, the goal is to just use up all of this hand spun in this project and hopefully have none left over. But I did want to pair it with another yarn because honestly it's a little bit it's a little rough against my skin. So if I was going to create a shawl or scarf or something solely out of this handspun, I wouldn't wear it because it's too scratchy against my skin. When I feel it with my hands, it doesn't feel scratchy, but as soon as I put it on my neck or somewhere like more sensitive like that, it does kind of, it just doesn't feel soft, you know? That's all. So if I have the choice between something like this, that's 100% merino nylon and it's just like super soft, I'll wear something like this instead, just because I know it feels comfortable. But anyway, so yeah, I have this started, and so I'm gonna make a scarf or cowl that I won't be able to wear to today's Mariners game, but even though the weather is quite appropriate with the cloudy, little bit drizzly day, it'll be cool weather to be sitting in the stands, so it would be an appropriate day to wear it, but it's certainly not finished, so maybe next season. So that was one of my new cast-ons, and I cast that on, well, I started that cowl this morning, actually. But I had started the previous, the first shawl that I ripped out, I started a few days ago, and yeah, basically after I finished my cardigan the very next day, I was like, ooh, I gotta cast something on, because I just emptied some needles. But I have another project that you saw last time, and I'm still working on it, and that would be my scrappy socks. So I'm using some Patton's Kroy sock yarn. I love using Patton's Kroy sock yarn. It is very durable, easy to work with, comfortable. It's just an all-around fantastic yarn, and it's easy to find in the store, and yeah, I like it. So I have all these different scraps of different colorways I've used over the years, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to make a pair of socks out of my leftovers, because I had right around somewhere between 90 and 100 grams, I can't remember now, in total. And so I'm like, yeah, I can totally get a pair of socks out of that. So I finished the first sock, and what I'm doing is a 1x1 ribbing, and I'm knitting this cuff down because it's my preferred method. Every 10 rounds, I'm switching colors. I did the heel flap all in one colorway because I didn't want to deal with weaving in ends along the heel. I just wanted this to be one solid thing. And then I'm continuing the ribbing down the top of the foot, plain stockinette on the bottom, and again, just every 10 rounds switching colorways. And then I did the toe all in one color. So this is, I mean, this is more than 10 rounds, right? But the whole toe is in one color. And so these are colorways that have some kind of marling going on in them, is how I grouped these together. But not only do they have marling, but they also have striping in them. So like this stripe here has stripes in it, and this stripe has stripes in it. And so it kind of just adds to the character of the sock. But I finished the first sock, and I cast on the second. And I'm not trying to make these match. I originally thought I was going to, but I'm not. I am not going to make them match. So that's where I am. I finished the leg, and I'm currently in the heel flap. I am purposefully doing the heel flap in the same colorway as this heel flap. I'm also putting the very bright red close to the heel flap, similar to what I did there. But this time the red is in the leg instead of in the gusset. So hopefully that kind of ties it together a little bit. But yeah, it's fun, she says without any enthusiasm, because it's fun in the fact that I'm using up scrap yarn, and that brings me a lot of joy. It's not fun because of this mess. Like, all of these ends, and every 10 rounds I have to decide what's going to be my next color, and that would normally be fun, but now that I'm on the second sock, like, the little scrap balls aren't that big anymore. So it's like, I want to use this, but I don't know if I can get 10 rounds out of that. I don't know. I don't know. It's lost its shine for me. So this project is a slog. And I did weave in all of the ends on the first sock. It's not a difficult task. It's just not exciting. So, I don't know. It's blah. It's a blah project. I'm gonna keep powering through and finish the pair, but I don't know. I have to do something to make these scrappy projects more exciting. Advent helps a lot, honestly. So I may find that scrappy projects are something I have to do in Advent just so I have the motivation. Because honestly, you guys, like, this project has been on the needles for definitely over a month. Maybe we're going on 2 months now. Like, it doesn't take me that long to knit socks, but this is taking forever because I don't want to pick it up. It's annoying. So those are my thoughts and feelings, but when the pair is finished, I'm going to be very happy, actually. So yeah, progress is being made, and I shall soon have a new pair of socks. Don't worry, I have another cast on. So I cast on another pair of socks because I really wanted to work on socks to have like quick, easy, sort of quote routine knitting that isn't boring. When I say routine knitting, it's like potato chip knitting, right? It's easy, straightforward, I get it done quickly, and it brings me a lot of joy. So I cast on another pair of socks where I wouldn't have to be changing colors all the time. So I cast on some socks for Michael, and I'm almost finished with the first sock. So the time it takes, I mean, I don't have to switch colors, right? I love self-striping yarn. It just does all the work for me, and I want to work until the next color sequence, and it's very motivating. So yeah, I only have one ball of this colorway. So in order to get a pair of socks out of it, I'm using contrast color for the heel, cuff, and toe. And so the contrast color is some leftovers from the Hobby Black Friday sock yarn. I bought a pack that had 2 skeins of this really dark navy and 2 skeins of light blue. And so I'm using some of this up for those contrast colors. I like 1x1 ribbing on my socks, and Michael really likes the 2x2 ribbing, so that's what I'm doing for his. I am making this like a half leg kind of sock. Not super short, but also not the full length, because I only have this one ball of this colorway. So I'm trying to make it through the whole pair of socks. So I'm in the toe decreases right now. I'm using 2 16-inch circular needles, US size 1, 64 stitches, heel flap and gusset. Yeah. This yarn is Premier Yarns, and I forget the name of the colorway, but it has, different shades of blue and gray. And it's okay, except that I've already encountered knots in this yarn, which really ticks me off. And thankfully, I think you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that, but it goes from this medium blue to this light blue immediately because there was a knot. And I don't know that you'd be able to tell that unless I told you. Those two should not really be next to each other, right? But it's fine. I mean, in the end, no one will notice, and it will be absolutely fine. It's just, I don't like finding knots in there when they're not supposed to be, and they change the color stripe sequence. Yeah. So that's fine, but I mean, what else am I going to do with a single ball of self-striping yarn in fingering weight? So I'm going to use up as much as I can in this pair of socks. We'll see how much I have left over. It'll go in my leftover bin that I'm currently pulling from. But yeah, so I have 2 pairs of socks on the needles. I have a scarf / cowl thing going on. And then I have one other work in progress to show you. So I cast on another garment, and this is something I'm just winging it on. We'll see how this goes. I'm using more worsted weight acrylic, Caron 1 pound, in the dark gray mix colorway. So I have this skein and part of another skein in my stash. And yeah, I previously, earlier this year, made a cappuccino cardigan out of this same yarn, and it's fantastic. It's so warm. I can't wear it until it gets cold again. It's so incredibly warm, which is fantastic. But I have this cardigan that I crocheted using granny squares and sewed them together, and I like the shape of it. I like the fit of it. The only thing, if I could change anything about it, is the fact that it has holes in it because of the granny square pattern, which means it is not great to wear if it's windy outside. And it's windy outside a lot of the time, so it just cuts through the holes in the granny squares right through to me. So I thought I would attempt to make a knitted version that is not using the square construction method, although I could have done that. So what I'm doing is using my granny square cardigan as a template, and I'm trying to just get the same shape but out of solid knitted fabric instead of joining squares together. So I'm doing a moss stitch, and just, it's a pretty rectangular piece, no shaping with increases or decreases, because it's all just squares and joined together. So I'm gonna mimic that. It does have like a drop shoulder, which is why this is so wide up here. So this is the back piece. What I'm doing is trying to make it like top down. So this is for the back, and I've knit it the same length down to the bottom of the arm opening. So I'm going to go back to my beginning row here, and I should have done a provisional cast on. I did not, but I'm going to go back, pick up stitches, and then do the two front panels down this way to the same length, and then I will join so I can knit the rest of the body as a single piece. And yeah, so that's where I am. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants and trying this out. I'd like to have this almost like a jacket, you know? And on this one, I would like to add pockets, actually. So I have some pretty nice longer cardigans that would almost qualify as jackets, and they don't have pockets, and it would be nice to have them. So on this one, I'm gonna attempt to add pockets, and we'll see how that goes. But I am seeing that the crochet with the squares and then sewing them together, the sewing does add nice structure. So it holds itself together very nicely, and I feel like the fabric isn't going to stretch forever, right? This, on the other hand, which will be a nice difference to kind of test out, is would it be better to have the structure? Is it better to have it a little more loose and stretchy? I'm sure there are merits to both, so I'm going to be able to kind of explore that. So yeah, I don't know, just a place for some of my creative juices to go where, yeah, the color is boring as all get out in this dark gray mix, but I wear a lot of grays and blacks and things, so it won't go to waste in my wardrobe. And I'm hoping it'll just be this nice, you know, uh, jacket cardigan thing with pockets that I can throw on in the fall or winter, or, you know, when we go camping, and I can just throw it on to go to the, you know, walk to the bathroom in the night or whatever. So anyway, yeah, I have lots of things on the needles, and I feel like I have kind of no structure to what I'm working on because I've finished my spring making list. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll have to put together a summer list here soon. I believe, if I remember correctly, the first day of summer is like June 20th or something. Which June 20th is the last day of school for me. So that's the day I'll be giving final exams. And then I'll be, you know, marking exams for a couple of days, processing grades, and that's how my summer break will start. I'm sorry it's been so quiet on the YouTube channel this month. I have not made the time to sit down and record a bunch of videos, although I do have some things coming down the pipeline, but because they're videos where I'm like following a project from start to finish, it means they take a while to make and then curate together. So again, I apologize for the light content this month. It's something I'm working on, but tomorrow I am going to Fiber Fusion Northwest in Monroe, Washington. It's happening right now this weekend, but we already, you know, kind of planned to go to the Mariners baseball game today, so that's what we're doing today. And then tomorrow, Michael's going to join me. We're going to drive up to Fiber Fusion, which will be the first time I'm going to this event. I planned on going to the Shepherd's Extravaganza, but I missed it. I went to look up the date. Like, oh, that's coming up, right? And when is it? And then I went, oh my God, it was last weekend. I completely missed it. So then I looked up Fiber Fusion because I thought, well, I can't miss another event. So yeah, tomorrow we're going to go to that event. I'm going to do my best to maybe take some video or photographs. There are going to be vendors. There are going to be animals. And who knows what else. It'll be my first time going, so I'm very excited to do that. And hopefully I will have some things to share with you, whether I make just a special episode about it or if I just mention a few things next time I see you. But yeah, so I hope that you enjoy your crafts, that you stay healthy, you stay safe. There we go. What's my outro? I hope that you stay healthy, stay safe, and that you enjoy your crafts, whatever they may be. Bye.